Everything you'd ever need to know is on the front. Wow, I just discovered this sub. Every day of my life, well, most days, I comply maliciously to some stupid order, rule, or policy. Here's one that happened yesterday. Staying at an upscale hotel in Denver for work. Had about 30 minutes to kill, so I browsed the gift shop. Saw a junior-sized John Elway jersey. Son is a huge Bronco maniac. They're all folded very neatly inside clear bags, the kind that have adhesive in the flaps so one could reseal. I asked if I could open one up to check the merchandise. The clerk, Karen, says, very sternly, "We only carry high-quality, officially licensed, authentic products." Me, sure, but do you know if... Karen cuts me off. Size, jersey number, and player name are printed on the sticker on the front side of the packaging. Me, sure, but I would still like to know if... Again, she cuts me off. You can open the packaging after you've completed your purchase. This time her eyes got big and her forehead veins were popping out. Wow. I've never seen someone so mad about a jersey. Okay, I'm happy to comply. I took junior mediums of an Elway, Manning, Terrell Davis, Champ Bailey, and Russell Wilson. Pay for it at the register. Open everything up, check the insides, shake my head and say to Karen, "I'm sorry, I'd like to return all these." Karen, what's wrong with them? Me, nothing. They look perfectly fine, but not what I'm looking for. Karen, you read the stickers on the front of the packaging, right? Yeah, as you told me to, of course I did. You told me twice. Me, sure did, but it doesn't say whether or not the numbers and letters are stitched or stuck via ironed-on adhesive. These are all iron-ons. I'm looking for stitched. Karen, you could have asked me. Me, I attempted to, twice, but you cut me off both times. Her forehead veins were popping out again as she was processing the refund. OP handled this perfectly. This is pitch perfect malicious compliance, and honestly, kind of like petty revenge as well. Those two subreddits overlap a lot, and I can't think of a better example than this story. Karen got what Karen asked for. She has no reason to be upset. Part-timers can't carry phones? Fine. Calls won't be answered. I worked at a grocery store for 4 years. At the time, I was 3 years into this job. I was working part-time while going to school. I was working in the frozen department, which most people did not want to do. I had a coworker who we will call Karen. She was full-time and older than me. She was awful, and everyone who knew her in store hated her. The best kind of employee, obviously. Our manager and upper managers hated her and never wanted to deal with her. Damn! Each department had a minimum of 2 phones. One was a wired phone on our desks, and the other was a mobile phone with a clip. If our manager were in, he would have it. If not, the first person would grab it and pass it on when they left or took lunch. That was standard procedure till one day, I had held the phone as I was the first one in and had been answering calls as they'd come in. Karen comes in an hour after me. She clocks in and comes up to me. "OP, I need the phone." Have yelling with her hand outstretched. "Okay, do you need to make a call?" I asked, wondering what she needed this early. "No, I'm supposed to have the phone," she demands, her hand still out. I give it to her, confused. "Okay, here. Why are you supposed to have it?" asked, confused at the statement. "I am a full-time and you are not. Full-timers are supposed to be the only ones who have the phones," she replies, rolling her eyes at me. Cue malicious compliance. On the next shift, I come in and my manager's not in. I don't grab the phone. I leave it on the charger at our shared desk. I get to work and start my morning duties. I continue to work and talk with people. An hour and a half later, when Karen finally comes in late, she demands where the phone is. I tell her it's on the desk. She stomps off and grabs it. I continue to work for the next couple of hours. At some point, our store manager comes over to me while I'm working in the aisle. Hey OP, is your manager working today?" "Hey, no, he's not. It's Karen and I working today." "Okay, who has the phone? I kept calling it," he asks, confused, as most of the time calls get answered quickly. Karen has it." "Oh, why don't you have it?" he asks, fully knowing that when our manager is not here and I am, I have it as an answer and can give solutions. "Karen told me that you said only full-time employees are allowed to carry phones," I replied. "That's true. You are full-time." "I'm not full-time. I'm part-time," I remind him. He asked me to fill ice in our liquor store freezer as it had been since I filled it less than an hour ago. He also asked me where Karen was because she was not in our aisle. I tell him she is supposed to be in the next aisle stocking items there. I walk towards the bag to grab ice. I was not there when the store manager got to her, but she had left the phone on the table she was using to fill items and didn't hear it ringing multiple times. The store manager was pissed and told her off for not answering and telling her she should not have the phone if she was going to leave it lying around. 10 minutes after speaking with the store manager, he came up to me again after I'd gotten out of our freezer. He gave me the phone and told me that I should probably keep it on me. TLDR, Karen demands to keep the department phone and does not answer it. The store manager gets upset and realizes that the part-timers were responsible for it. You know, I was with the manager up until he gave OP the phone again, because if it's not in the part-time employee's responsibilities to have the phone, then we're just letting this Karen who nobody likes, apparently, to keep avoiding responsibilities as a full-time employee. Like, if everyone hates her, first of all, why don't you just let her go? Secondly, use situations like this to let her go. I don't know. Maybe there's something I'm not understanding. I feel like this could be a policy violation, though, for not having the phone. Lady refuses to give up reserved seat in group cabin on a crowded train. Good day, everyone. So after lurking on this subreddit for a while, I decided to offer a story my dad once told me about his malicious compliance. My dad was a high school teacher, or the equivalent thereof in my country, and is generally a relaxed and chill guy. However, if you don't follow the most basic rules of politeness and respect, he can dish it out if he must. One day he was on a school trip with his class. They'd booked several cabins on a train for the students, each of which had 6 seats and was a closed compartment. The train was quite crowded, which they had anticipated and which was why they had reserved seats in the first place. Now, most people generally are polite enough to free the reserved seats when asked by the ones having reserved it, or they sit in them until the destination arrives, which is marked as the starting point for the reservation. The reservation on the seat shows reserved from station B, station D, so technically the seat is free until you arrive at station B. However, in one of the reserved cabins, there was a middle-aged woman sitting alone. When my dad saw the lady sitting there and making herself comfortable, barefoot, legs up on the opposing seat and her bags taking at least one other seat, he politely asked her to move since the entire cabin was reserved for the teachers in his class. Instead of complying or at least asking politely if she could stay, she instantly went up into entitled Karen mode and started yelling how she was not gonna give up the seat, that she was first and how it was her right to sit and whatnot. My dad, being a generally chill dude, tried to calm the situation and explain to her the concept of a reservation. She did not care. Oh, they never do. And descended into insults while acting like a victim of a terrible injustice. After all, the kids could just sit in the other seats. After this commotion went on for a while, my dad had enough, went back into the hallway where his students and other people were lining up and picked out 5 boys. He told them to get into the cabin, take the remaining seats, and make themselves comfortable. Having heard the conversation before, the students absolutely loved his idea and proceeded to move into the cabin. They behaved like they were alone, blasting music, loudly eating and burping, and intentionally behaving like stereotypical gross teenage boys. He had a secret weapon. He had Weapon X. He unleashed a squadron, dude. A few minutes after the plan had been set into motion, the woman burst out of the cabin to find my dad standing in the hallway talking to some students. Apparently, she cursed him using some pretty colorful language, spit on the floor, who even does that, like WTF, and proceeded to move to another wagon. My dad was way too gleeful to let himself be angered by that lunatic and let her go. Sounds like your dad demolished a Karen in no time. And those boys, those 5 brave soldiers. Da boys. They came in and did what they do best. Controlled chaos. 7 p.m. meeting for parent convenience? You got it. As a school principal, one of my responsibilities is to solicit parents to join the Parent Advisory Council. In fact, it's written into law with specific regulations as to composition, frequency of meetings, etc. One of the requirements is that the meetings have to be held at a time convenient to parents. A decade or so ago, I was the principal of a small, rural high school that was in a town that served as the hub for a larger area. Most parents of the school worked in town but lived out in the countryside, some as much as an hour away. Because of this, the only way to get parents to attend meetings was to hold them right after school at 4 p.m. Parents were either done work themselves or could make arrangements to dip out a little early, attend the meeting, and get home at a decent time. Particularly in winter, this was important as it was pretty dark and snowy on the rural roads. Partway through the school year, the district hired a new superintendent who had oversight of the high schools. She'd come from a large urban school district and didn't fully understand or appreciate how a rural school district worked. At our first meeting with all the principals, she asked each of us for a summary report of school operations, including parent meetings. I dutifully submitted mine as requested and forgot about it. A few weeks later, I got a call from the superintendent. We chatted, got to know each other a little bit, then got down to the reason for her call. I see from your report that you hold your parent meetings at 4 p.m., she said. Yeah, it's the best time so that everyone gets home at a decent hour, I said. A lot of people up here have long drives home, myself included. She took this to mean I'd schedule the meetings around my personal convenience. Well, when I was a principal, I always held them at night so more parents could attend. I think you need to start holding your meetings later. Well, I don't think parents will attend. No, the meetings had to be open to all parents and held at a time convenient to them. them, she insisted. I think you should start at 7 p.m. to make sure all parents have opportunity to come. Now in a big city school, this works fine as most families live within a short drive, but the boss is the boss. Cue malicious compliance. Okay, no problem. Say, why don't you attend the next one and introduce yourself to the parents, I offered. She immediately agreed, and I sent the calendar invitation for a month, hence at 7 p.m. My school was located about a 90-minute drive north of the administrative offices where the superintendent worked. She herself lived about an hour's drive south of it. She was in for a long day. The day of the meeting rolled around, and the superintendent arrived at the school around 6:45 p.m. in anticipation of the meeting. She brought donuts and cookies, and I supplied coffee and water. I'd set up the library with a big conference table and seating for 30. No one showed. I suppressed the urge to say, I told you so. I mean, hey. Reading the thread, she came around to understand that she had to learn how rural schools worked. That is, I love that. This one had a good ending. What a pleasant surprise. Wait a minute. How nice. And that's all the time we have for today, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave a like down below and comment down below, how nice, and I'll try to heart your comment. We had one hell of a month in June, and I hope to follow that up for this month in July, so thank you so much for sticking with me. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll be seeing ya.